Is imposter syndrome just low self-esteem? Welcome to the School of Self-Worth Live, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sam Osborne, the Self-Worth Guy. Today's episode number 201, and we're talking about imposter syndrome and whether it is actually just low self-esteem. And I'm talking specifically to performers and artists. And this question comes from one of the Facebook groups that I am involved in with performers and artists. And this is a question that somebody wants to know. So the one message I want you to remember from this video is that the way we see ourselves matters. It does. So regardless of whether imposter syndrome is self-esteem, just low self-esteem, just remember that the way you see yourself matters. And it's going to have a big impact on how you feel about yourself and your performance in life and the kind of level of creativity that you can express. And I'm going to talk about two things here. We're going to split up imposter syndrome and self-esteem and look at both of them. So the first thing is that self-esteem is a perception based on our beliefs about ourselves. And imposter syndrome is self-deception based on beliefs. So self-esteem and imposter syndrome are both based on beliefs about ourselves. And self-esteem is kind of an opinion about ourselves, usually anywhere from low to high, right? And imposter syndrome is self-deception about ourselves, usually meaning we have a distorted view of ourselves. There's also an associated fear with imposter syndrome of being exposed as a fraud, as a fake, as a phony. Whether you are a performer or an artist, maybe you don't feel like you are deserving of your accolades or your success, deserving of success despite the fact that you might actually have been recognized for doing a great job, a great performance, whatever it is. But the way we perceive ourselves matters. So I often think that self-esteem is kind of the way we measure who we are. And esteem could be thought of like the word estimate. So self-esteem could be self-estimate. So we create these estimates of who we are, our opinions, our strengths, our weaknesses. So that self-esteem tends to have a sort of, I guess, we're trying to analyze who we are and create an identity. Whereas imposter syndrome is best summed up like this. So I love Greek mythology. I love all mythology. And you might have heard of the word narcissism or narcissist. So narcissist is a term in psychology for someone who is very self-absorbed, and that can be quite toxic, or it could just be just a little bit self-absorbed, right? But the story comes from a Greek mythology of a young man named Narcissus. And the story goes like this, that this young man, very handsome young man, Narcissus, was cruising around, wherever it was, ancient Greece, whatever they used to do. And this beautiful forest nymph comes out to Narcissus and says, Narcissus, I love you. You're the most beautiful man in the world. Let's get married and live happily ever after. And Narcissus, being so full of himself, denied this young lady and said, basically, nick off. I'm not interested in romance. Thank you very much. Well, this not only broke the young lady's heart, but the goddess of love, Aphrodite, she was watching from the clouds, as goddesses of love tend to do. And she thought, I'm going to teach this young man a lesson he's never going to forget. And so she cast a spell on Narcissus that as he was walking home one day, wherever his home might be, right? And he looked into a pond and he saw his own reflection. And he became hypnotized and was not able to break his gaze upon himself. And as a result, he died by the pond looking at himself. And that was the lesson that the goddess of love, Aphrodite, was trying to teach him, is that don't be so full of yourself. Don't be deceived by yourself. And when it comes to imposter syndrome, I want you to take from this story that don't let your self-deceptions dictate your life. especially as a performer and an artist. Just because you feel like you might be a fraud or a fake or a phony doesn't mean that you are. You could just be too absorbed in that image of yourself. So remember the story of Narcissus. Don't get caught looking at yourself too deeply that you end up destroying yourself. Okay. So remember this one thing from today's video is that the way we see ourselves matters, but don't look so negatively at yourself that it causes your downfall. So think of yourself in a positive light. It's totally okay to do that as a performer and an artist, and that thing that's going to really help you to express your creativity more confidently. And if you've enjoyed this video, I've got a free gift for you. It's called Self-Confidence Starter Kit for performers and artists. And it's all about helping you to beat imposter syndrome. And you can get it at samosborne.com. So remember this one thing. Is imposter syndrome the same as self-esteem? Well, yes, no, kind of. You decide. This is just my opinion. But remember, the way we see ourselves matters. Have a wonderful day, everybody. I hope you're having a great start to the week.